2 people have been arrested and charged with the murder of 26-year-old Brianna Burgess. Brianna was a single mother of 3, 20 weeks pregnant with her 4th child. At around 2:35 in the morning on the 27th of July 2022, the police were doing a routine check of an area when they discovered Brianna's lifeless body near a track along Fort Drive in LaGrange, Georgia. She had been stabbed multiple times, and an unborn child was also killed in the attack. That evening, detectives had closed in on 2 suspects, identified as 28-year-old Curtiz Avery and 27-year-old Shalanda Freeman, who were located at the home along Elton Drive and were arrested. Police said they also found evidence of the crime. The investigators said that the couple and Brianna had been acquaintances for several years, and Brianna was specifically targeted, adding that this was not a random act of violence involving strangers. The motive of the attack is undisclosed. The pair are held without bail at the Troup County Jail, and each face charges of murder and feticide. A 17-year-old boy from Minnesota was killed, and 4 other people were critically injured after a man went on a stabbing spree while tubing on the Apple River in Somerset, Wisconsin, on the afternoon of the 30th of July 2022. St. Croix Sheriff Scott Knudsen said the suspect 52-year-old man from Minnesota is in custody. Scott said that the 4 victims, 1 woman and 3 men, all believed to be in the early 20s, had stab wounds in the torsos and other injuries. Investigators said that both the suspect and the victims were tubing on the river when the incident occurred. Scott said that people started calling 911 to report the stabbings at around 3:45 p.m. Emergency responders arrived at the scene to find that people were wounded and that the suspect had fled. He said that he tried to escape by floating down the Apple River. The incident occurred near Sunrise Bridge, and with the help of some tubers on the river, deputies began administering first aid and evacuating the victims. Scott said that at least 2 people were airlifted to the Regent's Hospital, while the others travelled by ambulance. Paramedics took the 17-year-old to Lakeview Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. A bystander took a photo of the suspect, which helped the authorities locate him 3/4 of a mile upstream, where he was arrested without incident, roughly an hour and a half after the attack began. It was said that the suspect was tubing with his own group at the time of the incident. The suspect's in custody at the St. Croix County Jail, and charges are pending. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 7-year-old Texas boy was found dead in a washing machine 2 hours after he'd been reported missing. Events unfolded at around 4 a.m. on the 27th of July 2022 at a home located at Rosegate Drive in Spring, Texas, when Troy Kohler's adoptive parents couldn't find their son. After they were unable to locate him, the adoptive parents reported Troy missing at 5:20 a.m. The authorities searched for Troy, and at 7:20 a.m. they discovered his lifeless body inside a top-load washing machine in the garage of his family home. It's unclear if there was any water in the machine at the time, or if the lid had been closed. Troy's exact cause of death will be determined by an autopsy, which is due to be completed. Officials could not comment on whether foul play was suspected, or if he had climbed into the machine himself, but said he was clothed when he was found. "We don't know what happened, but we intend to find out," Lieutenant Robert Minshew said from the Harris County Sheriff's Office. "Whether he was killed by a washing machine, or killed and placed in it, we're just so far from that," he later said. The police were interviewing the parents for a missing persons report, and decided to search the house after realising there was no signs of a door or a window being left open. Troy lived alone in the house with his parents, who adopted him in 2019. He had previously lived in the home as a foster child. The investigation into the matter continues. 36-year-old Sonia Lohar strangled her 3 children to death before taking her own life in a triple murder-suicide. At around 6:30 p.m. on the 27th of July 2022, officers responded to a welfare call at 10 Whaley Street in Danbury, Connecticut. The caller was said to be distraught and crying. When officers arrived, they entered the family home and found 3 deceased juveniles, aged 5 to 12, who'd been strangled to death with electrical cords. While conducting a further check of the property, they found 36-year-old Sonia Lohar, the mother of the children, in a shed in the backyard, dead from asphyxia due to hanging. Sonia had contacted her sister 2 days earlier, telling her she couldn't sleep and was under a lot of stress. It's reported that Sonia ran a babysitting business from home, but the government shut it down on the 29th of June, saying it was illegal. Her sister promised to visit over the weekend for a barbecue, but 2 days later, that all ended. Sonia's husband, Pedro Panho, worked as a landscaper and carpenter. He arrived at the home that evening, and everything was silent, and he realized something was off. He went inside and found Sonia had left a note for him, which read, "Sorry Pedro, I take my kids with me." He then discovered his dead children with cords wrapped around their necks. The distraught father then looked for his wife, and when he couldn't find her, he contacted the police, but the dispatcher was having trouble understanding him. He then went outside to the yard and asked for a neighbour's help when he became overwhelmed and fainted to the ground. On the 29th of July, mourners left a makeshift memorial of photos, candles and balloons outside the family's home.